everybody. My name is Jacqueline Veliz, pronouns she, her, hers. I am the public programs manager here at Powerhouse Arts. I work closely with Luther Davis, Ann Schaefer, and Brian Miller to produce the Brooklyn Fine Art Print Fair. So thank you all so much for being here. I've seen many of y'all all throughout the weekend, so big thanks for being such incredible community members. I am introducing today Josh MacPhee and Amos Paul Kennedy Jr. I'm so excited to have them in conversation today. If you've been here with us for the entire weekend, then you know that we started this weekend with talking about the print ecosystem 101. So how to make it in the print world, kind of what are there tricks to making it? Are there not tricks to making it? Big tip is we're all people, and just say hi, be generous, be kind, be patient. It was really the gist of it, right? Yes. Amos has been so kind and has been attending all the talks, all the demos, and actually you probably would have seen him on the floor giving away some of these giveaways today. So a little bit about Josh MacPhee, I'll kick us off. So Josh MacPhee is from Interference Archive, just a few blocks down. We invited him today because we remember that the roots of printmaking is a call to action, getting the word out as quickly as possible to as many people as possible. And so Josh MacPhee will tell us about finding the Just Seeds Cooperative and Interference Archive. Amos Paul Kennedy Jr. here on our left is a letterpress artist, a printmaker, formerly in academia, now doing his own thing, attending print fairs, giving away prints as many as he can, and doing it all with a smile. Selling prints. Yes, actually, that's a great note, because it reminds us that these giveaways are truly so generous of Amos. I asked him if he can produce slides, and he said, I can do one better for you. I can make sure they have prints in their hands. So, yes, thank you. So with that, let's hear what they have to say about getting the message in the hands of the people. Thanks, y'all.
There's the people. We say get the message into the hands of the people, and it seems like, to me, that's kind of self-evident, but it does beg the question, how do you do that? What's the distribution plan?
Sometimes you take a baseball bat, sneak up behind them, and hit them in the head. But, when I first started printing, I was living in Chicago, and those nights that I would print and make, at that time they were broadsides because it was fine printing. I took the L down to the loop, and when I got off the L stop, I would just hand things out. And, everyone's handing out something on the L, and so people were reluctant. Some people would take it, and I really liked the ones that would take about 10 steps and come back and say, can I have another one? Because it didn't look like what people were commonly given. And so that's one way. The other way is just leave them at coffee shops. I find libraries are very good to leave stuff at. And bookstores are also. And so I print way more than I sell. And the thing is that you start with blank paper, then you print it. And if you don't get rid of it, you still have the same amount of paper. And so in order to make room for more paper, I end up giving away a lot of things. And that's okay because the people who buy my work, I think we are of the same mindset. So they feel that they are, helping other people get the message that they believe in. Yeah, so you just gotta give it away. Sometimes people don't accept them, and if you don't want to accept the ones that are here, just leave them and someone else will get them.
I mean, I like working with community organizations because then you're working with people that have a base that's interested in what you're organizing around.
Right.
So, I mean, I find that for me, some of the most satisfying print distribution is like totally outside of the field of fine art printing at all. Like I work with this organization, the Catal Center for Equity, Health, and Justice, who has been organizing for a decade to try to shut Rikers Island. And I've been working with them for a decade on that campaign, and some of the stuff I've made for them is verges on art, but the stuff that's actually been the most successful or the most useful is things like that are the most quotidian, like door hangers. Like I've designed many iterations of the kind of door hangers that like politicians put on doors, and they have teams of canvassers that go out and have knocked on, I don't know, almost 250,000 doors in public housing in New York City to talk to people about Rikers Island, and they always hand people these door hangers, and when they're not home, they get hung down the hallways, and we printed close to 1 million door hangers. I would never be able to distribute 1 million things, but when you're working with a community group that has canvassers, and then, I mean, it's like, I felt like I had made a lot of prints until people were like, we need to make more of
Right. You know, now you are a commercial printer. You know, like, oh, I did 500, great, you know. But yeah, I have the same experience that I think I'm doing a lot, but I don't even consider myself a printer because a printer does 10,000, 100,000. So to do 1,000, that's pretty good, but still, it doesn't, you know, touch the population of Detroit. So it's just a small fraction that gets what I do. And so, yeah, working with community groups is really a way. And sometimes I will just work unsolicited. If I know an event is happening, I'll just make a couple hundred posters and just leave them at their headquarters. I don't know if they use them or not, but you know, they had them. Yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about giving away all this stuff for free, what's the political economy of the school of bad printmaking?
Well, I am independently poor, so you know, money is not a problem for me. You know, I have no idea where the funding comes from. But one, I use chipboard, which is extremely inexpensive. And also I use the materials, the equipment of letterpress printing, which was designed to be used over and over again. So my greatest expense is paper and ink sometimes. But and chipboard is really inexpensive. So I can work within that. And the weirdest thing is that I do sell some of my work, and I think I sell it at a price point where people can afford it. But then there are organizations that will buy that $25 poster for $325. And when I have that opportunity, I sell them a lot.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, I've mostly switched to printing on a risograph
Okay,
printer
yeah, mhm.
because it's so cheap.
Yeah.
But even that, like pre-pandemic, a ream of cardstock, 250 sheets of cardstock was $20, and now it's 50.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, the prices keep going up, but I try not to, as the prices go up, I pay my workers less. But at some point, it's going to get really bad. So yeah, so I've maintained my prices for almost the last 20 years because, you know, I don't have anything else to do. I'm unemployable, so I have nothing else to do with my life but print. So I spend at least half of my day printing in some respect. And the thing is that we live in a society where people don't realize that, well, I don't know, maybe I'm older and I realize that I've accumulated too much, so now I'm at the process of deaccessioning. But you can live very comfortably within a modest income, and everyone should be able to. But, you know, we have this thing called greed that has a tendency to creep into all of our lives. And I've been trying to deaccession greed in my life right now.
that's why I made those onesies from birth, exhausted by capitalism.
Right. Well, someone should have a card that says capitalism is a mind fuck. Yeah. So Just Seeds, which you're a part of, is a international co-op that's loosely held together. Would you explain it to the audience? Yeah.
The threads get thinner or thicker depending on the week. Just Seeds Artist Cooperative is a group of 40 primarily printmakers who are based in Mexico, the US, and Canada. And we function as, in a way, like a producer's co-op. So something like a lot of citrus, like sun-kissed oranges, aren't all grown at one farm. There's a lot of small farms that aggregate their produce and then sell it together under the name of sun-kissed. So in a way, we're similar in terms of like everyone individually makes their own work and then we collectively sell it through a centralized point. And so in a way, everyone we're sort of like become collective gallerists of each other. Most of what people produce and sell is relatively inexpensive. And for me, what it allows, I mean, increasingly, if you want to survive making artwork, there's this drive to become an entrepreneur, to always be marketing and trying to sell yourself. And it gets harder and harder to actually bring any income in if you're not out there selling yourself. But that's not why, at least anyone I know, got involved in making stuff. So by being part of a cooperative of 40 people, then I only need to be 1/40th of an entrepreneur, and I can spend the other 39/40ths of the time doing the shit that I want to do. So, so it's been successful in that extent. Everyone makes a little bit of money. No one makes enough to live off of, but it helps. And then also, like, for instance, the members who are in Mexico, they can sell their work through the US and Canada at rates so much higher than they can sell at home. And so they can send stuff up, we can sell it, and then send the money back to them. And it opens up a whole new market in a sort of wealth redistribution system. So yeah, I mean, I think, I don't know, got a little clicker here. Let's see what. No, don't have a Just Seed slide.
Okay.
It's the stuff.
No, that's interference. But this is my example of, I think Amos has talked about this too, that like in a way, your work can have more life the less you take authorship over it. That like, this is an image, this is a graphic that I initially made for the campaign to shut Rikers and then put it up online for free. And it is just sort of traveled around the world and people use it in all different contexts, whether it's stapling it up on a telephone pole in Boston or this tattoo parlor that's somewhere in the Pacific Northwest that someone just sent me a photo of. I have no idea where that is or who the people are involved, to like live printing events. That like part of the reason why this Build Communities image has traveled all over is because it doesn't have my name on it. I don't spend a lot of time worrying about ownership. That like, I designed it, but then the people who use it make the work.
Right. And that's the thing, one of the things that is developing in this area of printing that we do is that we are not taking ownership. We don't want to have copyright or patent. And people ask me, well, suppose someone steals it. I said, then it's stolen. You know, I mean, like, let's look at reality. If Disney were to use something I made, I don't have enough money to
Your
sue
fleet
them.
of lawyers, you're not going to send after them?
And if somebody else steals something, they don't have enough money for me to sue them, you know? And so, I mean, in all reality, that's the way this country is. You're either rich or you're poor. And there is a quote, and someone probably has it, by Sojourner Truth. And she said, the rich rob the poor, and the poor rob each other. You know? And that is the way, and she said this back in the 1860s. So that has been a part of this society's makeup. You know, we prey upon those that we need the most.
Well, and an organizer, mentor of mine, Lorenzo Jones, says there's two primary forms of power. There's the power of money and the power of people. And money's always trying to disorganize people, and so it's people's job to disorganize money.
Yeah.
Easier said than done.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But, you know, you have to start somewhere. And that's one of the things that when people give alternatives or possible alternatives for existing systems, the critics want to have everything mapped out to the last minute. And do you think there's a plan for the way that this country is being run? They run it off the seat of their pants. They may have a grand vision of owning everything, but they haven't figured out how to own everything. So they keep encroaching upon the little that we have. But they don't have something that tomorrow morning they just have everything the way that they want it. It is a constant building. And if we want to see a new world, we have to constantly build that world. I've come to the conclusion that it is not my responsibility to broadcast the ills of this society, but to broadcast the positive things of the society that I want. You only have so much energy. Are you going to spend it destroying something or building something?
No, I mean, we put ideas and images in the world. Why spend all that time reiterating what we're against rather than spending that time imaging what we want?
Absolutely correct. You know? And that's what you can do with the press. You know, people ask me many times, well, why did you do that? And I say, because I own my press. You know, I can do what I want to. So when I first started printing, I did a lot of African proverbs. And as I went through a source from the probably 1800s, early 20th century, all the proverbs, except a few, had male pronouns. And the few that had female pronouns displayed the female in a negative light. And then I looked at it and said, well, this was written by a white man in Africa. And if you know anything about Africa, you know that they have societies for the initiation of women and men, or girls and boys into adulthood. And a white man is not going to go to an African female initiation. The wisdom of African women would not be recorded. And so since it was my press, I just said, I can change the pronouns to whatever I want. And so I have, and I continue to do that. And people say, why did you do that? I said, because it's my press. I get to print what I want. You go get your press, you can print what you want.
Speaking of, do you have like a little notebook you carry around where you keep all the quotes? Like, where's all this text come from?
A lot of times it comes from people that I know, and then a lot comes from reading. Because people will see something and say, hey, I got something my father used to say. I got something, you know. And so a friend of mine gave me one of my most popular quotes, and she wrote it to her granddaughter, who was an extremely ungrateful individual. And the quote was, and also religious, and the quote was, how do you know Jesus when you can't write a thank you note? You know, and even people who don't believe understand that to the point. And it was such, and I've printed that at least 5 different times because it, you know, it's so popular. Yeah.
So you have this big building in Detroit. It's filled with presses.
I wouldn't say it's a big building.
It was a warehouse.
Huh? No, it isn't. It's only 3,000 square feet.
That's big.
No,
That's
in Detroit, they have 1 million square feet, old buildings, you know, old stamping buildings and stuff.
Yeah. Well, Interference Archive is 1,100 square feet.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I have. I bought a 3,000 square foot building off the auction for $7,000, and I've already dumped $250,000 in it just to get the roof done and other things. But that was one of the things about Detroit. And people ask, why did you move to Detroit from Alabama? And I said, well, because the cost of living in Detroit is almost equal to the cost of living in Alabama. And I was getting older, and medical becomes an issue. And one of the problems that we have in this civilization is that rural hospitals are closing. To get good health care, if you're not in an urban area, is extremely difficult. And the older you get, the more doctors you begin to know. And so I moved to Detroit because at the time it was possible to get a 3,000 square foot, what do we call them? Fixer-upper, for a couple of, for under $10,000. And so it is now, I now occupy the building, but I do it illegally because the city really doesn't care. The outside is maintained, so they just pass right by it because it's been vacant so long. But yeah, that's where I hang out at. And I have a couple of printing presses there. And I invite people to come and print because I have more than one printing press because when I was younger, I had that greed problem. And one of the things I try to do is that if somebody wants to print, and if you can find your way to Detroit and find a place to stay, then you can come to my shop and print because I have to pay the same amount for electricity, for heating, for all the utilities if there's one person there or if there's 10 people there. But I don't have 10 presses, I only have like 4 that people can use. So it's kind of like, yeah, come, because people don't have access to, especially letterpress, and if you want to do letterpress and you want to do big, there should be somewhere in a country that can spend $39 billion for a 4-day loss. There should be some place that they have a couple of $1 million that people can go and make stuff that actually makes people feel good. Yep.
If only.
So I knew about Josh because, the internet, and I'm like, God, and it's such a big thing within the printing, especially because of the social aspect of the work that it does. Because a lot of printers do not have that opportunity to devote to what I call direct confrontation of a political issue. Because the way that I look at it is that everything you do is political. The question is, what kind of politics are you supporting with that? And so if all you do is print or paint landscapes, that is a political statement. It may be more powerful than some of the words that I use, but it is one.
Well, context is everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you have your pile of bricks, and I'm part of a group that runs an archive down the street here. It's about a 10-minute walk away on 7th Street, 314 7th Street, called Interference Archive, in which, we're old people that have a history of printmaking in our heads, but we have the actual physical history buried in the flat files here at Interference Archive, which is a storefront, public-facing, open stacks archive in which anyone can walk in when we're open and pull open flat file drawers and take folders out, pull down boxes, and we collect all of the material that people make when they're organizing to transform their lives. Whether that's trying to get a speed bump on a block to stop kids from getting hit by cars, or organizing in your workplace. We have bits and pieces of all that. Amos has sent us a bunch of different work, but we've got material from all over the world from the past 100 so years. During the peak of the semesters, we've got 1 or 2 or 3 classes coming through, from kindergartners up through PhD candidates, to paw through the archives. And I invite everyone here. We're open today until 5 if people want to rush down the street and check it out. It's worth it. There's a ton of great stuff, history of political print from all over the world, buried in this little storefront on 7th Street. So, and it's all volunteer run, all collectively run, largely funded by the people who use it.
And that is collecting ephemera. That is collecting what I kind of sometimes refer to as dirt people stuff. Those people that make everything function, but our culture is not appreciated because it is a protest. It is the Okra Festival in Alabama. But it is a part of a group of people who are coming together as a community to attempt to build a better society. Ephemera is extremely important. It gives you a history to let you know that the struggle did not begin when you discovered it. It has been here. It has been an ongoing thing. And progress is made. The idea of a revolution to me at this point in my life is ludicrous. What happens is evolution. Evolution makes things stick. Revolution can be reversed. But evolution just keeps going forward.
I honestly take either, but I take either. I mean, me and 3 comrades and hundreds of other people now, we started interference because 20 years ago, we had been going to educational, like university and art institutional archives, and like I fought my way into the MoMA archives when they were in Queens, proved to them I knew more about what they had back there than they did, and found flat files full of political posters, Black Panther posters, American Indian Movement, that literally had Post-it notes on them that said, not cool enough to catalog, or to be cataloged sometime in scare quotes, where they, these institutions, they cherry pick out the stuff that's useful to them in the moment, usually because it's authored by someone that's recognizable that they otherwise have in their collection, and then the actual labor of the thousands and thousands of people it takes to actually change anything literally just disappears. And so that's why we felt like there needed to be a space that holds that labor up. And that it's not just important to hold it up, but the people who make it need to have access to it. You shouldn't have to fight your way in to access your own history. And that's an evolutionary thing where archives and institutions are way better than they were 20 years ago, but there's a long way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. To that point, the question is, how are you archiving your life? Because the things you do every day is just as important as those names that you see on the news every day. It gives a different perspective for scholars in the future when they look at Brooklyn. The letters that you may have written 20 years ago, or the emails that you send now, or the DMs, how are they being collected? Well, I really don't collect them, Amos, because, I don't know why I don't collect them. But Meta collects them. And probably
Meta owns them.
Yes, and you won't have access to them. So you're producing all of this stuff for these digital media platforms that you have, that is yours in some respect, but you actually have no access or no ownership of. And the least you can do is own the things that you make. Now you can give it away, but you should know that you're giving it away. You shouldn't be giving it away thinking that you own it.
I feel like it's even worse than that.
Yeah.
It's like you're not even just giving it away, you're working for them.
Yeah,
when you're giving it away.
Yeah.
But, so, go out and get a Vandercook and
Actually, get a
send
pen,
postcards to people.
Get a pen and paper and start writing people. Because how many of you actually go back and read an email from 2 years ago? But if you had a letter from a relative that you kept in a drawer, or that special letter that you keep, then it would become a visit over and over again. It doesn't take that much. And actually, you will scare people if you write them a letter now. Now, my mother told me one time that when we had first left home, at least when I first left home, that if she really wanted to tell me something, she would write me, because I couldn't argue back with her like you can over the phone, you know? And so you have that cooling off period. And that's one of the things that a letter does. It gives you a space to breathe and maybe get mad initially, but then perhaps, you know, you come to your senses, or you realize that she didn't come to her senses, and make it happen. Okay, can I ask questions? Because we've got 10 minutes. Okay, we are going to open it up for questions. If anyone wants to ask any questions.
My question for you guys is, who are we not reaching, and how do we reach them?
I'm reaching anybody who picks up what I do, or anybody who passes by a sign and it catches their attention and they read it. You know, my audience is anyone that comes within reading distance of what I've printed.
I feel like I'm probably not, I'm not reaching most people, but I'm not so sure that's a terrible thing. I think that there's this sort of illusion that it's like all or nothing. You either reach like one person or you reach everyone, and maybe it's okay to reach some people, and we just try to figure out how to reach the some people that have the potential to build things with. Because you can build connections and relationships and like real social networks with people, with some people. You can't with all people. Like, it actually blows open that possibility. You can't, it's not possible. So maybe if we move from the all to the some, it opens up actually more possibility, because then everyone's working together to reach more people rather than individually.
Well, see, I come from a different school of thought. I reach all people, but not at the same level. We live in a society where it's either on or off, but when we think about the society as fluid. By virtue of the fact that someone holds a view different from mine and strongly holds it, if they stop and read it and say, that's bullshit, I have reached them somehow. And I like to think that I have planted a seed of discontent that will eventually grow. I'm not looking for someone to read it and just like, I just have a great awakening. I'm looking for all sorts of change. And so by putting my message out there, I know that my message can be heard or read.
Someone could say just seeds, huh?
Yes.
Sweet. I saw a question here. Perfect.
Amos, you mentioned that sometimes the things you have to say can trigger discontent. And oftentimes as artists, there's a certain hesitation that comes with our ideas or visions and how provocative they can be. Is there a certain way you approach courage and how to push the needle?
Well, I don't know. I kind of like to aggravate people. And, my proudest moments are when I've been censored. I know that I've done something right. When I was in academia, I did a semester-long class on social printing. And basically it was screen printing, because at that time you could go to an art supply store, get a complete screen printing set, except for the paper, for like $25. I was like, if you leave here and you don't have access to all this equipment and something pisses you off, then you can walk to the local art store and print up a bunch of posters by making a paper stencil. And that's the other thing, they were making paper stencils. And it went on for 15 weeks, and each student picked a topic. And one student picked the topic of the inequality of pay between male and female faculty. And she went to different departments, because this was a public school, so the salaries were available in the budget. And she printed, things about it. The last week, she did the art department. And one of the requirements was that they put 4 up in the art building so I could see them. And that morning, before the critique, I go around looking. And then I do the critique, and I tell the student, "Where's your posters?" And she said, "I put them up. I really did." And I said, "You did?" "Yeah." And so I went down to the office, and I said, "Did you all take some posters down?" And they said, "Yeah, because we know you put them up." And I said, "I didn't put them up. My student put them up. It was part of an assignment. She's been doing this for 14 weeks, and you're the first place to, to shut it down." Then I went back upstairs, and I told the student she had an A because she got censored.
Other questions? Perfect.
Going forward, how is print going to deal with digital?
With digital?
Yes, uh-huh.
I mean, I feel like a lot of printmakers have integrated digital. I mean, I'm pretty anti-digital, but that's just personal. Like, it's the same sort of the sum instead of the all. I feel like the problem with digital is that the possibility of building solidarity with the people that are part of the process is black boxed out. So when you're on a social media app, you don't know how or who or what was coded, or the data center, all of that stuff in the name of efficiency has disappeared. So you have this UX experience that's seamless. I don't want a seamless experience. I want to actually connect with people. So I want to go to a distributor of paper and get my paper. I want to have the possibility of making connections to the people who are necessary for me to do the things that I want to do. And the digital makes that impossible. And so to me, it's not useful. Because I don't need to reach people that are halfway across the world if I can't actually build a relationship with them. Then I'm just, shouting at people if there's no return. So I actually think that digital gets in the way of actually communicating in a way that's meaningful. I want to have solidarity with the people that are making the paper that I'm printing on. I want to know if they're going on strike so that I can say, I'm not going to buy this paper. And I feel like the digital black boxes all that out, so it's not possible. And I think that is part of why our society is so fucked right now.
Well, I tell people that this is the original digital. These are the digits, and that's what it is. We live right now in a world where so much technology is happening, and it's so wonderful. There's this thing called AI, and it's like, no, the wonder is us, we. There are only so many humans, and each one is unique. That is a wonderful thing. The fact that my heart can beat and I can move my hands at the same time, and I'm completely unaware of how that is happening. But it happens. That is, that's what I kind of hold on to. And I don't worry about digital. Because it is, from the 1990s, don't believe the hype. Because I am old enough to remember in 1960 when they told us that by 1980 we would be living in a paperless society. And more paper is being used now per capita than it was back then.
Thank you. I think we have time for maybe 2 more questions. Is that right? Yes? Somebody? I think I'm the one who decides, so I'm going to say yes.
Thank you for your work and your wisdom. I think one of the heroes of your work, Mr. Amos, is typography, is letters and words. Could you talk a little bit about your relationships to type and also some of the research you've done of type in the historical context of the struggle of Black Americans?
Well, I went through a transition to get to where I am, and initially I wanted to be a fine press printer and do books, and typography was extremely important. And prior to that, I spent a number of years as a calligrapher, so I understand letter forms and the shapes and the way things happen. But now, I am just happy to have something that I can use. You know, it's like, if I can use it to put the message out there, that's more important than saying, I won't put the message out because I don't have the typeface that I want. So that becomes, and that's part of that, put the message in the hands of the people and move on. You know, what do I have to put the message out there? And I do make some decisions, but largely I use big wood type sans serif because that's what remains from the golden days of wood type. And I really don't get involved the way that a fine printer would get involved in typography. And that's kind of a shame, but you can't do everything. So, you know, concentrate on one thing, and that's what I do right now. Just using whatever wood type I have in my shop and cranking out a poster or a card at least once a week. But depending on what's going on, I like to do something once a day. Yeah. And then I have to get rid of it. Aha.
We have to punch your punch card.
Do you think that because you are so fluid with giving away so much of your art, that you're blessed with so many more designs and ideas and concepts? Like, do you think it's very much a give and take that has allowed you to produce at such a high volume all these years?
Ooh. Never given any thought to that. I am grateful that people accept the work that I do and that they want to put it in their house or their apartment, their home, because that speaks volume that in some way I'm connecting with the individual. And yes, you know, I feel extremely grateful. I feel that what I do allows me to express the generosity that makes us humans. And the fact that a person accepts it, that allows them to express their generosity. Because that says volumes when you take something and take it home, or it becomes meaningful to you. Because we will spend a lot of our time and a lot of our resources getting things that 3 days later, like, oh, whatever, we'll just throw it in the closet until the closet gets too full. But I do feel grateful to those people who accept. I feel more grateful to the people who buy. That's another story, and time's almost out.
I mean, I feel like the way that you work with type, I, in some ways, work with images. That for me, in sort of what you're saying is that ever since, during the French Revolution, Daumier made, an etching of a young worker with his fist in the air. Working class people organizing have been creating an entire lexicon of iconography that gets used and understood and recognized across geography, across language, across time. And the generosity of the creation of that body of material allows me to draw from it. I use it and then put it back into that common space for other people to draw on. And to me, part of that is to participate in that, one needs to give back. And so the more you put into it, then the more other people can take out of it, and you just become part of the shoulders of shoulders that you're on. That is, people using culture to transform the world. And to me, like, there's not really a greater aspiration than just being a link in that chain.
Sweet. That seems like a great place to end. Thank you both so much for this conversation.